So good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Bandwidth. Thanks so much for tuning in. Today's topic is rediscovering and showing up for yourself. But before we dive in, I do want to have and discuss some housekeeping items. So we definitely want you to engage with us. We are here to answer your questions. So we will get to them in while we're conversating, and then we'll also talk about your question or get to your questions after the conversation is over. If you are not subscribed to our channel, please make sure that you subscribe, click the thumbs up button, and hit that notification bell. Also, comment your biggest takeaway from this episode. And if you know one person that you can share this episode with, please do so, because that is, definitely what we want you to do. Sharing is caring. And oftentimes, people that can benefit from the conversation. So don't be stingy and share it with the one person that you know. Follow us on Facebook at Rosie Faulkner and IG at Faulkner_Rosie. And if you are ready to go live, I ask that you sign up to get my 3 must-have tools. The link will be below in the description box. And lastly, I want to thank the Style True team for putting this episode together. They work so hard to bring you content, so I definitely want to thank them. So let's do this. Again, the title of this show is Rediscovering and Showing Up for Yourself. We are here with our fabulous guest for tonight, Michelle McKinney. She is a dream coach. And let's give her a warm welcome to The Bandwidth. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. I'm like, wait a minute, can I just be a guest? Because this sounds so bomb, but I'm grateful that I get to have this conversation dialogue with you today.
Wonderful, wonderful. So I gave a brief description of what your title is. Can you elaborate a little bit more and tell us more about your background?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Rosie. I really appreciate you and your incredible team. Amazing, right?
Thank
you. As you said, my name is Michelle McKinney, and I, by title, am a dream architect or a dream coach. I help women to discover, define, and confidently live out their God-given dreams. And what that means, I often say, it doesn't mean that when we say confidently, it doesn't mean that you don't feel the fear or you have apprehensions about whether or not you have the resources, the time, and all those things. It means we feel the fear and we push and we do it anyway. And I help you to figure out the strategy in that. My background is that for about 20 plus years, I've been an executive assistant to some of the most incredible brands for senior executives at companies like American Express, Starbucks, Fannie Mae, and a few others. And so in that space, the executives that I've assisted, they are on the go people who are looking to win, and they have big strategies, big budgets, and they really maximize their time. And so in partnering with them as their assistant over the years, I've helped them to figure out, along with getting the work, the big strategy stuff done, how do we get you from here to there? Whether it is in your personal life or it's a professional life with your teams, where are you and where are you trying to go? And so, as your assistant, I can get the coffee if that's what the deal is. But all right, after we get this coffee, let's talk about what's the big vision and how can I use the gifts that I have to be able to get you, whether it's building more relationships or there's a goal that you're trying to get within the organization. I'm going to be your running mate in making that happen. And so we bring that work forward, not just into the corporate space, but into the everyday space with women just like you and me.
Wow. I'm impressed.
Well, thank you.
Because that is a big thing. Like you said, feeling that fear and moving forward. Yeah. As you know, our target audience is women over 40. So I feel that we have a voice. We have lived our life. And it's just like, look, whatever you want to talk about, if it's your brand that you want to get more exposure and now video is the vehicle that you need to do that with, or if it's like an idea or something that you're very passionate about that you want to talk about, you should be able to do that. And if going live is what you need to do, you need to face the fear. Yes, it's going to be scary. I recall, and I always tell about my first experience. And yes, it's very scary. A lot of people are scared that people are going to, have negative things to say about them. But what do you say about that? How do you unpack those fears and move forward?
So the thing is that I think for all of us, I don't care how long tenured you are in the body of work that you do. I think there is a space, especially if you're still moving outside of your comfort zone. I think that fear is going to show up, right? And so part of that for me, and as I talk to clients, it is some of the fears and the apprehensions and the talk that we have mostly in our head. It's the same tape that keeps playing over and over, right? And so the same way that, let's say if there's a guest that's coming over to your house and that guest is coming, you're going to prepare for that guest, right? Well, that fear, that self-talk, all that doubt, all those things, that it's coming. You just don't know the time that it's coming and what's going to trigger it. So my thought is, how can we take the fear that you already know that's going to be there, and then what does truth say about you, right? So whatever the truth is that says about you, I encourage clients and even myself, get an index card, use your phone, use that note section. What is the truth against that? And so when fear starts popping in, pull the receipts. Because I know, for women that if you're in your 40s, we got receipts, and I'm not saying that if you're 20, you have receipts even at 20, but at 40, you have receipts that show no matter what comes, I have pulled through. And whether it's a faith background, because I know we all come from different spaces. So if it's a faith background and your faith background is a higher power, a God, that you're able to say, listen, God has brought me from here to there. So this is just a different scenario. I have trust that I'll be able to make it through this too. You still gonna have that fear, but it's like, let's not speak to the fear. Let's speak to the faith, because whatever we speak to the most and give the most meditation and time to, that's what's going to help propel us to where we're trying to go.
Yes. And like you said, I am a Christian. I curse, but I'm a Christian.
Listen, we're in the same club. We're in the same club, girl.
I so believe that. I be like, Lord, and sometimes you be like, Lord, I need a win now, or I just bombed. Just help me to get where I need to be, because you know my heart. I want to help these women. So I definitely agree with that. And hold on to that and keep going. That's what I always say. Nothing is going to be perfect, and keep going. Absolutely. But yes. So why is it important to identify my own needs and desires? And how does that help me in showing up for myself?
Oh, that's so good. I'm so glad you asked that question. The thing is, in the work that I do at Dreams Unleashed, right? I believe as women, we nurture everybody else's dreams and put ours on the back burner. We study our children, we study our partners, whether it's your husband, whether it's your significant other, we study our parents, we study our bosses, our colleagues, whomever. We know what they like, we know their preferences, we know when they're not feeling good, but they still say, no, I'm all right. We know that, right? The challenge is we don't spend enough time, I don't think anyway, nurturing ourselves as well. So one of the areas that I've been challenged in more recently is, Michelle, do you know what your own pleasures and what your own desires are? And I had to take a step back, because initially, if you would have asked me before, I would have thought, yeah, I do, right? But then I started thinking about that and I was like, no, I can't articulate that. And then I had to ask myself, well, why can't you articulate that? Because I haven't spent enough time really just sitting back like, what do I like? I mean, I know an idea of some things I like, but what are the things that really make my eyes light up? Beyond, I know my favorite store. I know those are the self-soothing, like sort of basic things that I know about myself. But I think that there's too much time that we haven't spent getting to know us, yourself, the inner you, what makes you happy, as opposed to, especially, and let me say this, and this does not mean that women of other ethnicities don't have this same issue. I can only speak from the experience of only ever being a Black woman. Mm-hmm. And in that space of being a Black woman, there's this thing that Michelle Obama said some time ago. She said, we raise our daughters, but we love our sons. And in that space of being a Black woman where you are raised, there are expectations. And again, that doesn't mean this doesn't happen in other ethnicities and other cultures, but there are expectations that are put on you as a young Black girl, that it's like, make sure you do this, keep a nice house, keep yourself clean, make sure you make good grades, keep money in the bank. There's all these things that are set, right? So then you start to curate this space of what the expectations are based on what's projected to you by people that you love, right? So then you start building a life based on that. What degree am I going to get? What kind of car am I going to get? What house? This, that, and the other. And then you build this whole life. And then you wake up in the morning miserable, not everybody, but miserable about where you have to go to work every day, because you began shaping your life around the ideals of people around you. So the work that I am doing a lot of times in Dreams Unleashed is coaching women in the space of, wait a minute, let's rewind the tape. What is it that you really want? And that sometimes is an emotional space. It is a tearful space for some women as we're walking through that, because a lot of times we put those desires on the back burner because at some point somebody said, nah, you can't do that, for whatever reason it was.
No, and I so agree. And it's most likely to happen after your kids leave. That's because you're just like, you have been in raising the kids mode. It's just like after, it's like, what do I like to do? What is my favorite color? Like, what makes me happy? And, I'm kind of like in that space, but I was doing, my business before my son left for college. But I was just like, now it's nothing stopping me. I don't have to cook for nobody. I don't have to do this. Like, this is on and popping for me. Like, I can do whatever, go wherever I want, do whatever I want. But I still had to check in with myself and say, Rosie, what do you like? Because for 18 years, I was in mom mode, making sure he had what he needs. So I definitely agree with that.
And let me add this too, because, to your point, we do see it a lot with moms, right? But we also see it with single women who have no children, who have accumulated all the things. They've got, they've gone through school, they've gotten their MBA, they have the car, they have the house, they can vacation when they want, closet full, all the things. And so they climbed the ladder and done all the things that they thought they wanted, and the things sometimes that would make other people proud. And you wake up and it's like, why am I doing this? What's the purpose of that? And I do think, which one of the reasons why I love your show and your audience is that I do think that it happens for women as they are entering that late 30s space and into your 40s and 50s. Because when you get into that space, I think you start to get more clear about who you are and who you're not. The things that you used to put up with and you used to tolerate and things like that, your patience gets about this short, right?
You better preach it.
In that time, you don't have a lot of patience for just extra, just stuff that really isn't feeding who you are or your exploration phase of where you want to go.
Yeah. Now with that, so how do I assess my present life to determine what needs to change?
Ooh, let's talk about it. So in the same way, when I'm working with senior executives, right? The question has to be, where are you trying to go? Because, you've heard people say for years, you got to start with the end in mind. The only way I think anyway, that's really useful and really impactful, there are other ways that you can, but in terms of being really impactful, just like if you're getting ready to go, on a destination, go on a journey, you got to know where you're going, because based on where you're going, if I'm getting ready to get on if I say, okay, so I live in, the DC area we were talking about, right?
Yes.
If I say I'm going to Richmond, Virginia, that's a 2.5 hour car ride, maybe about 2 hours, right? If I say, no, I'm getting ready to go to Indonesia, well, there's a different amount of preparation that takes place going to Richmond versus me going to Indonesia. So first I got to assess, what is it that I really want? Where am I trying to go? And then once I have an idea, and you don't have to have it all mapped out perfectly, but once I have an idea, the vicinity of where I'm trying to go, well, now let me assess where I am. So then I can figure out what are the gaps that exist, so that whether it is a financial change that I need to make, whether it is a relational change that I need to make, whether it is self-talk and emotional development things I need to do, now I know what it is that I need to put together so that I can get to what it is that I really want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's a good roadmap that so many people don't take the time to, like you said, sit down and map out where you are and where you're going, where you want to be. So that is so true. But why do you think people get stuck though there?
And when you say get stuck there, you mean stuck in the not being able to make any moves?
Right. Yes.
Yeah, I think that it gets overwhelming, and especially in the season that we're in, granted, somebody might be watching this 5 years down the road or 20 years down the road and not know what the pandemic was. But especially, right now in this pandemic space, there's so much happening and so much that's on you, right? And even if we weren't in this pandemic, I think a lot of us get stuck because we think about where we want to go and it feels like, I don't know if I can get to there, right? Or we self sabotage because of all the different fears, perhaps, that we have. Or we disqualify ourselves because we think that, yeah, she can get it, but I don't think I can, right? I don't think it's accessible to me because maybe my credit score is jacked up right now. So I've only ever seen myself in this particular box. Or I've only been in dysfunctional relationships. So I've never seen a healthy relationship. So I don't know that that's possible for me, right? There's so many things that goes back to the mind and what we're feeding, what we're telling ourselves, that we get overwhelmed. And as women, because I'm guilty of it so often, we start creating narratives that aren't always true. It's like we will take one thought. You could be in a relationship with somebody and they say one thing, and we create a whole narrative that was like, the person's like, that's not what I said. All I said, I didn't want chicken for dinner.
Right.
You're cooking. I just didn't want chicken. Now we're in this whole narrative that you spun, and that's not even what it is.
Yeah.
There are all those things that play for us sometimes as women. So it's great to be able to have a tribe, a community, a coach, people like that can hold your feet to the fire and say, girl, for real, you tripping right now. And that's what I use my community and my friends and counseling and things like that for, to be like, Michelle, you tripping. Seriously, you tripping.
Yeah. And I so agree with having a coach or even accountability partners, because before I joined like a coaching group, I didn't have that in my friendships. They all, are working a 9 to 5, which, that was my space too. But it's just like they didn't get the online type of business and, where I'm trying to go. And I didn't have anybody. And sometimes, like you said, when you get stuck, you need that tribe to like call on and be like, look, this is what I'm feeling. And they know exactly what you're talking about instead of looking at, your other friends, which is like a deer in the headlights, like, girl, what are you talking about? Like, this is crazy. All I know is, this. But I think that is so important because, like you said, you sometimes get in your head and you don't move. And that's the whole thing with what I'm finding out for a lot of women that want to go live. They just get stuck and then don't do anything.
Right.
So I'm happy that you said seek out, coaches, accountability partners, different things like that to keep you moving forward.
Yeah, I love that.
Yes. So what are some physical and emotional pains that people go through, and how can you overcome that?
So when we think about physical and emotional pain, right, and how do you overcome it, I think that it's important for us to feel the feels first, right? I think that we don't give ourselves enough time to feel and honor what it is that's happening with us, even emotionally, right? So if you are going through sadness, if you are going through grief, if you are going through depression or whatever, those are all feelings that were given to you, right? And so I know that even as I've over the time of my life have gone through grief, let's say the passing of my mother at a very young age, or the passing of people that I care about, or the loss of something, right? I have always been annoyed when I've heard people tell other people, you're gonna have to get over that. What? Which means they're gonna have to get over it. No, they need to do some work to be able to, one, honor the feeling that is there.
Yes.
Because I think when we don't honor the feeling that says, I'm really sad right now. Like I had something that happened to me and I'm sad. Honor that. Honor that. Sit with your sadness for a minute. And I'm not saying you sit with the sadness forever until it takes you into a spiral, but honor it. Allow it the same way I'm in this living area right now. Allow it to pull up a seat and let's dialogue internally about that, right? Why are you feeling that? And once you, I think, are honoring that space, I think it's important to be able to get to the root of the pain, whether it's the physical pain or the emotional pain, Just like if you go to a doctor, the doctor's going to say, show me where it hurts.
Mhm.
Show me, like, point to the spot where it hurts so that we can get to that spot. Because what will happen for many of us, whether it be men or women, is that when we don't point to the spot and really dig into what it is that hurts and when did it start hurting, we'll start putting on numbing things just to be able to dissolve the immediate pain that we have. And the thing is, the pain doesn't go away. And it's scary sometimes to face that emotional and that physical pain, because then sometimes for a lot of us, that means you're going to have to unpack trauma that happened 15, 10 years ago that you felt like I did a good job of tamping it down. No, we did a good job of avoiding it. And then what happens is we end up with these triggers that happen in life. So you're in the space that, you're in a relationship. And just like we said before, is that somebody says one thing, and it's really not even about what that one thing somebody said. It was they triggered something in you, an emotional or physical pain from 10, 5, 15 years ago that you never dealt with. So I think we have to honor that emotional and physical pain and sit with it, get the therapy and the coaching that we need, and be able to allow ourselves the journey to work through and heal through whatever that is for us.
Yeah, but I want to say that some people don't know when to seek help. It's just like you said, sit with it. And then some people just sit with it and sit with it. It's just like, when do you take the next step?
Yeah. And, this is the thing, I think about my car, right? My car has to go in, and I'm sure your car has to go in listen, don't tell me I just look at the sticker. I don't know how many miles it is, like it's 5,000, whatever it is. I just read the sticker. When they say, this is the mileage, I take it in, right?
Yes.
Nothing has to be wrong with the car for me to take it in. But every once in a while, it needs a tune-up.
Mm-hmm.
As humans, we are no different. Nothing ever has to be wrong for us to be able to seek help, right? I think we wait until the house is on fire and now we got a massive situation, as opposed to saying, no, you know what? I put a whole lot on me emotionally and physically on my body. I demand a lot from my body every day. I demand a lot from my emotions. I demand a lot from my mind. I need a safe place that even when nothing is wrong, that I can go, that I don't have to filter my thoughts, that even with my girlfriend, I've said this before, that when you end up using, I think anyway, only your girlfriends, your guy friends to be able to talk and vet stuff. The challenge with that is that then you often feel the responsibility of asking them, well, how was your day? So now all you're doing is an exchange from pain for pain, because those are people you care about. So now you're taking on their stuff. The great thing about therapy is that you are hiring somebody, whether it's through your health insurance and you're paying a copay of $20, or in many cases, there are EAP programs where you pay nothing for a period of time, or there are nonprofits as well. But in those spaces, when you are hiring somebody, you're not asking your therapist, so Carolyn, how are you doing today? She might say, fine, but that's all Carolyn gonna give you.
Right.
At that moment, it is only about you. And so I don't know that there is a space that we should wait for something to happen, that we wait to seek therapy. It should be something ongoing for our wellness that we're doing as women.
Yeah. And I never thought about it in the way that you said. Like it's not a two-way exchange when you go to therapy. It is, you like you said, when you're talking to your friend, like you feel an obligation to ask, but like you said, you're paying for it. Exactly. So I never thought about it like that. I'm like, oh, that is so true. That is so true.
And if we get together, right? If me and you go out, like, so now that we know that we're around here, right?
Yes.
And we, I think we're real cool with each other, right? If me and you go out and you say, girl, how's it going? Da, da, da. I might unload because you created a safe space, all the stuff, right? And we 45 minutes into the conversation, right? And we tired now at this point. I'm going to feel an obligation, not because you're requiring it, but just out of sisterhood to say, Rosie, so how is your family doing? And now we got another 45 minutes, and that's fine. And that's great for the right time.
Yeah.
But we do have to, I think personally, and I hope this is okay to say in this space, I think as women, we just don't do enough in the space of our emotional wellness, our personal wellness, our sexual wellness, mental wellness, all those different areas for us that I'm like, why are we not talking about it? And why aren't we paying attention enough to it?
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I agree. We definitely need to do a better job at that. Yes.
Starting right here. So it's
Yes.
not just
Yes.
everybody watching, it's all of us need to.
Yes. So to kind of like bring it back, so what are some ways to discover or reconnect to your purpose?
Number one way, because this is shameless, and I really do mean it. It's not a shameless plug. It's just what I mean. I think first, when you have an opportunity to work with somebody like myself that is a dream coach that has been doing this work for some years, that's like, let's unpack it. Like, what is it that you want? And start to think through, what are your gifts? Like, it's not just what do you dream about. In some cases it is, but when we're talking about purpose, a large part of that, personally, when I'm walking clients through that space, we're looking at three areas. We're looking at your gifts. What are things that you were just given? You did nothing to earn them, you couldn't buy them. They were just things that were deposited in you. From a faith background, God just gave them to you, which is why they're called gifts. You do them at a high level that nobody else does. Now, when you add education to it and more training and experience, you just get better and better. But the gift in and of itself is raw state. If you never went to training, it's still bomb. So it's us looking at your gifts. The second area that I typically look at is passion. What people, group, or cause makes you it burns you up when you see an injustice happening in that people group or in that cause area? Or who are you willing to sacrifice your time, your resources, your money, your energy? Who is that particular people group? And let's get specific about it. And then the last area that I'm looking at is, what is the problem that you're looking to solve? Like, what is it? Like, what is the thing that you're like, oh, me, I may not be the one by myself that solves it, but that problem right here, before I leave this earth, I want to be a part of the team of people that are looking to solve it. So again, we're looking at your gifts, your passion, and your problem. And then from there, the same way that we do in corporations, and if I'm working with an executive or with a small business, we are looking at, how do we take the gifts, the passion, the problem, and now let's create a mission or a vision statement for this season of your life. From that vision and mission statement, now let's start ideating around, what are all the possibilities, the things that make your eyes light up, the things that make your heart set on fire. Let's start thinking through that. So that's typically the process that I would take somebody through. So even if you didn't work with a coach like myself, which I think is usually the best way to do it, because you're taking yourself outside of the experience so that you can focus just on you. But if you're not, you can still follow that same sort of process of looking at your gifts, your passion, and your problem to think through, where do I want to lend my time?
Yeah. And how do you evaluate your progress?
I think that, honestly, I really think that as women, or men too, I think as people, it's good to be able to write it out. Like, what is it that you're trying to get done? And what is the time frame that you're trying to do it? And evaluating that in the same way that you would evaluate, let's say in a business space, what the objectives are. Let's say if you're saying, I want to save, let's make this up. Let's say if you say, I want to save $10,000 by the third quarter of this year, right? So then that says to me very easily, first quarter is January, February, March, second is April, May, June, and then we're in July, August, September. So then what that says to me is that by September 30th, 2021, as an example, if that was the goal, now we have created a SMART goal of some sort that now I can measure it. So now I can track it. So I can look at 3 months, because I put some time to it, the time to actually measure it, to say, am I on track? Then not just on the quarterly basis, I can back that up every month and break the numbers down to say, am I on track? I think where we end up running into an issue is when we have these very vague sort of goals and dreams that are not specific enough. So if I say to you, Rosie, I want to buy a house. Okay, where do you want to buy the house at? What does the house look like? How many bedrooms is it? What area do you want to be in? Do you want to take out a loan? When you're asking yourself all those specific questions, now we're able to evaluate, how are we doing with where it is that we want to go.
Great. No, that is some good stuff.
Good.
No. And then like this is one that I always struggle with and my audience struggles with is when should you or how often should you give yourself grace? Like so many times. And this is something that I need to practice too. We don't extend grace to ourselves. You know, we do not. It's just like you're so hard on yourself. You should have did this, or you're not where you want to be, or like you said, your house situation. I should have been in a house by 35, and here I am in my 40s, and I'm still not. How can we help ourselves extend grace?
Yeah. So this is what I think, right? I think that we should extend ourselves grace every day, right? So from a faith perspective, it says that his mercies are new every morning, right? So there is the extension of grace to yourself every single day. However, right? And I think you can appreciate this because we had this conversation that, I'm a Christian, a girlfriend could drop some words here and there, right? I also think that while you're extending mercies and grace to yourself, right, every day, you also got to be honest with yourself when you're BSing. Because there is some BS that happens with ourselves when we make up a lot of excuses for why we're not doing what we're really supposed to be doing. We get distracted by a lot of stuff that's happening in our lives, and some of it is avoidance, right? So I think there is the balance of saying, nah, I'm not gonna curse. I busted.
Girl, yes, you can.
There are weeks, right? There are days that I can look back and be like, I busted my ass this week, right? Like I put it all down. And there are other weeks that I can look like, girl, you BS this whole week. You were scrolling Instagram. You were texting your girlfriends. You were on a thread, downstairs making something to eat, right? And I think even those moments are okay, right? Because I think sometimes we run so hard that we don't give ourselves a minute just to be able to sit back, right? Like I think we do all this preparation and building of having these nice homes and cars and education and all the things, right? We don't give ourselves enough time to experience these things that we're giving to ourselves or that we've been gifted, right? So I think there's the balance of giving yourself grace and saying, girl, just rest.
Yeah.
And that was a space that I had to be in last month where I took a step back and I was like, I can't do any coaching for a period of time. I can't be on social media because I'm in a season where I really felt like God was like, you're going to learn to slow down, baby, and you're going to learn to rest right now because it's not something that I did with ease or with permission, because I always felt like I needed to prove something either to my ancestors or to myself that I was earning my keep. So I think the grace part is an everyday thing, but be honest when you BSing too.
Yeah. And I have nothing to say about that either, because you're right. Sometimes you have to, and I talk to myself all the time, like Rosie, you playing games, but then on the other side of it, it's just like, I used to get mad at myself for taking a nap, so it's just like, yeah, both sides. And I agree. It has to be when you're BSing, and also just like, girl, you can take a nap, So it's just like, oh my God. But like you said, you're just trying to hustle and prove to yourself and, that you can do it or get to whatever goals that you're trying to achieve. So,
exactly.
Oh my goodness. This was a fantastic conversation.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So 2 last questions. What's next for you and how can we stay connected with you?
Ooh, girl, what's next? So I've been sharing with people, probably some years ago, I created something that's called the Vision Board Playbook, right? And so along with the coaching, again, coaching is available on a very limited basis. But besides the coaching, the Vision Board Playbook is signature product that we are actually finally relaunching. It took me a really long time to find a new manufacturer just because it's a really difficult product to be able to produce. But the Vision Board Playbooks are coming back out. What's fantastic about Vision Board Playbooks is that people are very accustomed to a vision board, which I think they don't work. Just personally, I just don't believe in them. And the reason why I say that is not to put a damper on it. My experience has been is that people typically come to an event, they do it at their home, they get a poster board, they get some magazines, they get some scissors, they get some glue, they get some snacks, they get some drinks, right? You get into this room with a bunch of people and it's like, all right, what you want? Start cutting out pictures, right? So you start cutting out these pictures, you put them all in this one, piece of flat paper collage. And it's like, yay, I got the vision. And then you go home, you put it up on your dresser or on your wall or whatever. And it's like, there's no strategy behind it. There's nothing, right? There's that space of faith without what is dead. Faith without works is dead. So there's no strategy. With the Vision Board Playbooks that we've created, it is an accordion style book that on one side are the pictures, but behind it on that vision, we look at every role that you want to focus on, up to about 8 roles. Of those 8 roles, what is the specific vision that you want to see happen in each of those roles? On the back side of that board for each panel, that's where the strategy goes in. So before anybody ever puts a first picture down, we are thinking through, what is it that you want? Not that you went somewhere and you saw somebody say, oh, I want to go to Tulum. Now you want to go to Tulum. Is that really what you wanted? Let's get to the heart of what you really want. Let's create a strategy to be able to make that happen. So those are coming out by the middle of this year. So if people follow me on Michelle.McKinney on Instagram or go to the website dreams-unleashed.com, that's where you'll see the release of that. Excited. They're bomb. They are.
Wonderful. And I love the action piece because like you said, when you go home from the vision board party, like, okay, you have this, but how do you put the action? And we know action is what gets you to where you need to be. So I love that piece. So,
awesome. Thank you, Rosie.
Yes. So thanks again, Michelle, for being on the bandwidth. We wish you the best and we will stay connected with you.
Listen, you can't get rid of me now, Rosie. We here.
Yes, absolutely. So thanks again. There you go. Another episode of the bandwidth. We dropped some gems here, especially Michelle. So we definitely want you to comment your biggest takeaway from this episode. Again, share it with one person that you know that could benefit. If you're not subscribed to our channel, please subscribe, click that thumbs up button and hit the notification bell. So when we have great guests on here like Michelle, you will be able to tune in and get all those good nuggets. Follow us on Facebook at Rosie Faulkner and also IG at Faulkner_Rosie. And again, if you're ready to go live, sign up to get my 3 must-have tools. The link will be in the description box. So thank you again for tuning in and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.